project is located in CD6. It's for 9 single-family dwellings. And item 6, it's a report from the Planning Commission as to a resolution for a general plan amendment for a vesting zone change ordinance. The project is located in CD7, and it's for the construction of a 1,940 square foot food catering establishment in CD7.
All right, we'll consider item number 5 first. We have one public comment speaker, Mr. Matt Hamilton, for 1 minute on item number 5.
Good afternoon, Matt Hamilton. I'm with the project owner, project applicant. Just real quick, wanted to say thanks to staff for all their efforts in getting us to this point. It's been over 2 years in the process. We really appreciate Courtney and Dominic getting us over the finish line. Just one thing I wanted to bring up was regarding condition 17, which deals with widening the internal sidewalk in the project. So this was something that was brought up at the APC hearing as part of a broader discussion. It was our understanding the APC had approved the project as is with the 4-foot sidewalk, which is how we've prepared and processed all of our plans, our grading plans and whatnot. So we're hoping we can move forward with the project with the project as is, as approved per Exhibit A at the APC with the 4-foot sidewalk, which would allow us to start construction much sooner than having to redo all the plans. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So if there's no objection, we'll take item number 5 on consent. Okay. And then item number 6, we have one speaker, Malaysia Terrace. Don't see her. So without objection, we'll take that item on consent. I'll take us to item number 1.
Item 1, Councilman, this is the weekly director's report.
Good afternoon, council members. Kevin Keller, Executive Officer, City Planning. No director's report today, but I'm available for any questions.
Thank you so much. Mr. Keller, item number 2.
Item 2, Councilman, this is communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Mr. Aras Parsegian to the North Valley APC.
All right. Can our nominee join us at the center table? Thank you for being here, sir. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you plan to accomplish working with us in the capacity of commissioner?
Sure. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, perfect. My name is Aras Parsegian. I currently reside in District 7, Monica Rodriguez's district. I've been involved within the city's different tasks that I've been doing, the neighborhood council, currently a real estate agent, which I don't practice much. I'm more of a mortgage lender and a commercial lender, very involved heavily with real estate, not on the receiving side, but on the transactional side, helping people transact. Within our community, I've seen that there's a lot of need for, so we're bordering Glendale, so there's a huge difference with our demographics where we want more businesses, and I got involved and worked with the council district, and we've seen a lot of improvement. There's more improvement that we can see overall, and that's pretty much why I'm getting involved, because at this capacity I can be more influential and help out as much as I can.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments, members? All right, we have one public comment from Deborah Cox. Deborah Cox was so moved by your qualifications that she decided to forego her public comment. If there's no objection, we'll move this on to council for approval. Thank you so much, and we'll see you at City Council. Takes us to item number 3.
Item 3, Councilman, this is a motion, Bonta and Krikorian. It's instructing planning to study the impacts on of independent retail uses along Oceanfront Walk in the Venice community.
All right. Are there comments from the planning department? Ms. Valdez? No? All right. We have a few speakers on the queue. David Boren, Mark Rago, Mario Velasco.
Hello, my name is David Boren.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I think everyone can agree that small businesses are the mainstay of Venice Beach and Oceanfront Walk. I represent 5 small bike rental shops in Venice. The small bike, skate, surf shops in Venice are what makes Venice a major tourist draw. You don't need a study to understand that. We're already under attack by big business that doesn't care about the community, sorry. We have billion-dollar scooter companies placing hundreds of dockless vehicles in front of or adjacent to small retail businesses. If they continue, they will bankrupt every one of us. We need a 200-yard exclusion zone away from businesses. At the end of the day, we need the city council's help. We need to help stay in business. We need to help Venice be Venice. We need to help the tourists coming back, because I don't see anybody flying halfway around the world to go to Scooterville and buy a McDonald's burger on Oceanfront Walk. So we need your help.
Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Mark Rago. I'm part of an activist group called the Venice Dogs, an alliance for the preservation of Venice. Oceanfront Walk gets over 10 million visitors a year, basically because of its uniqueness. It's unlike anywhere else in the world. And last year, both Ben & Jerry's and Starbucks opened, and we hear rumors about 7-Eleven, Chipotle, Subway, Nike, McDonald's, and more. Adding more of these national chains threaten our local establishments and are detrimental to the uniqueness of this world-famous family destination. No one goes to Oceanfront Walk to go to a Taco Bell or a Foot Locker. They're already pushing out viable businesses like the Freak Show, which has basically been replaced with a Starbucks, and the Freak Show space is still empty. It's been empty for 2 years now because these landlords are forcing out the tenants in hopes of getting a big corporation to come onto the walkway. We held 2 protests in front of Starbucks, and we have a petition of over 2,300 signatures. And Mike Bonin, who introduced this motion,
Cutting
and his
into
office is
Mr.
helping to
Velasco's time. You got to go.
Okay.
Thanks.
We have Mike Bonin's support. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mario Velasco. I'm a co-owner at Cali Sons. We operate a store on the boardwalk. We're a minority local owned and operated retail store. We've been in business for over 5 years now. We're well-respected members of the community. I personally served on the Venice Chamber of Commerce Board. My business partner Jason is currently serving as well. I'm here to support a study only if a formal meeting between the City Council and local stakeholders takes place before any ordinance is approved. 2 main reasons. One, we already have chains on the boardwalk with multiple stores. They've pushed out many previous tenants by offering large sums of cash to the property managers. They're scam artists. Their employees sell drugs out in front of their stores. They've been allowed to operate with impunity for several years now. Any ordinance would have to address this issue, not just big box chains. I have proof if anybody is interested. Second reason, any ordinance would have to be implemented in conjunction with a series of further actions to secure original owner property rights and the ability to adapt to changes in our business climate so that we can stay competitive as small businesses.
Thank you. Jason Tong. Sergeants, we've got some documents at the desk.
Excuse me, it's really important actually. I know I have a minute, so I'm going to speak fast. I have a little bit more time while he walks. Okay. My name is Jason Tong. I am not just the renter. I'm the owner of 1915 and 2013 Oceanfront Walk. We're a family business since 1962 and 1972. We own 2 stores on the boardwalk. I'm only in support of this motion to study the business environment. However, it must take in consideration actual land and current business owners' issues like entitlements. We purchased our property as C1 commercial in 1962 and 1972, and it was downzoned in 1989 in an ordinance that took away our zoning in a month and a half, and now we have a variance. We're frozen in time. The impact of this downzoning has crippled our business and reduced our ability to adapt to business climates. There's precedent for change. Ruth Galanter in 1992 fixed the block perpendicular to me from South Venice to the boardwalk, and now there's Ed Sugar next door to me. With the Olympics, the Super Bowl, and the World Cup coming to town, this is a big deal. I'm also the owner of One Venice, the senior citizen 50-unit housing development
Thank you.
project, and our contract has
Thank you.
expired.
That's your time. We have a representative of District 11, Mr. Nguyen.
Good afternoon, council members. Len Nguyen, Senior Planning Deputy for Council Member Mike Bonin, here today on his behalf in support of these local business owners. He urges approval of this motion and study. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments? Members, hearing none, we'll ask that this motion be forwarded to council for approval. Thank you. That moves us to item number 4.
Councilman, item 4 is a report from the Planning Commission. It's a proposed ordinance to amend the Central City West specific plan and its affordable housing requirements.
Excellent. We have a report from staff.
Good afternoon, Craig Weber, City Planning staff. I am here this afternoon to provide the Commission's report on the council-initiated work program to amend the Central City West specific plan. By way of brief background, the Central City West specific plan was adopted in 1991. It was fairly forward-thinking in its vision for this collection of properties just west of the 110 freeway near downtown, and was the first planning tool within the city of Los Angeles to require inclusionary housing. So the 1991 adopted specific plan required that residential projects include a 15% low-income housing requirement for each project. It also provided an in lieu fee for projects that would not provide those 15% low-income units on site, as well as a fee for commercial development to address the potential displacement of residential within the area. So there's a fee for commercial square footage as well. I beg your pardon. In 2009, there was litigation regarding the plan's inclusionary housing requirement, and ultimately the courts invalidated the specific plan's inclusionary housing requirement. However, in 2018, state law changed, essentially reinvigorating the specific plan's existing affordable housing requirements. In light of the state law, there was a council motion requesting that the department clarify how the present-day affordable housing requirements would work in light of the many changes that have taken place in the affordable housing landscape citywide, and also to provide for a phasing mechanism for the requirement and its fees, essentially on-ramping the fees back into present day. So the commission ultimately approved the recommended changes to the specific plan, which I'll summarize below. One was to allow for, in addition to the 15% low-income housing requirement, to allow that 8% very low-income housing would also satisfy the same requirement. It also clarified the manner in which affordable housing units could be calculated, essentially that the units would be a requirement of the base and not the overall project, thus allowing projects to avail of incentive programs like density bonus or TOC. And it also made some changes with respect to how in lieu fees would be charged, doing two things really. One, clarifying that the specific plan's in lieu fee would prevail in light of the citywide affordable housing linkage fee, but that with respect to commercial square footage, it would set aside the specific plan's commercial affordable housing fee, thus necessitating that projects pay the citywide affordable housing linkage fee instead. In addition, the commission recommended approval of phasing, essentially stating that within 90 days of adoption of the ordinance that there would be no fee or no requirement, and then the requirements would incrementally increase over the period of roughly 270 days. And then lastly, some clarifications with respect to the manner in which the department can study potential environmental effects per the California Environmental Quality Act were also made. So that's a summary of the Commission's recommended approval of the specific plan, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
All right. If there are no preliminary questions or comments from members, we'll go to public comment on this matter. Beginning with Claire Branowski, Olivia Lee, Jim Rice, Charlie Carnow.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Claire Branowski from Glazer Weil. I'm just here in support of the recommended amendments. This is going to update a plan that's really out of date for the 25 years it's been since it's been in place. We support the providing certainty and consistency with the state law, both CEQA updates and the infill housing updates, so that there will be no uncertainty or inconsistency between this plan, and it will be housing production will be encouraged. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Olivia Lee with the LA Area Chamber of Commerce here in support of the proposed amendments to the Central City West Specific Plan. One of the most important ways the city can ensure more housing production is to provide certainty to those creating more housing. These amendments will create consistency with other state and city housing laws and procedures, including expanded affordability options for developers. Moreover, the specific plan was written prior to the state's efforts to increase housing production, and these amendments will allow the city to take advantage of significant changes that have been made to the California Environmental Quality Act to achieve that goal. With the city's efforts to build more permanent supportive housing across the city, these amendments will shorten the development timeline for these PSH units in the Central City West Specific Plan. We urge that these amendments move forward to final approval. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Charlie Carno, and I'm a research analyst for Unite Here Local 11, the Hospitality Workers Union. We encourage a yes vote on these plan changes to allow we are specifically supportive of the allowance of very low-income and extremely low-income units to allow more people to access the affordable housing created under the plan. And we would also just say that this plan, as the city staff said, was forward-looking. It has some really great elements: inclusionary zoning, replacement requirement if you demolish housing to build a hotel or other commercial uses. And we hope that those requirements are incorporated in future community plans, so we can ensure we're creating new affordable housing and certainly not having a net loss of housing when we replace rent-stabilized properties. Thank you.
Good afternoon. For the record, Jim Reese with Craig Lawson and Company, here to support the proposed changes to the Central City West. Over the last 20 years, I've done hundreds of units in this area. It's a complicated, specific plan, one I believe the city actually won an award for and has maybe hanging up on a wall somewhere in City Hall. But I appreciate the changes. I think they're appropriate and they're reasonable, from making them the density consistent with state density bonus, or at least the affordable portions of it, allowing 8% very low income to satisfy 15%, and allowing other environmental clearances other than an MND and EIR are very sane changes. I appreciate the changes, and I urge you to support them today.
Thank you. Mr. Shilston.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Shilston with the Central City Association. We're an organization dedicated to enhancing the vibrancy of greater downtown LA and investment in its growth. We would like to thank Councilmember Cedillo for addressing the inconsistencies between the Central City West specific plans, affordable housing provisions, and citywide and state policies. We're supportive of the amendments, and we appreciate the thoughtful, phased approach that will provide certainty for projects already filed and for those to come. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes public comment on item number 4. See if there are questions or comments from committee members. Nothing from Mr. Price. Mr. Cedillo.
Yes, I appreciate all the positive comments and the support, but no one can argue that 1991 is dramatically different than 2019. And while these are welcomed fixes to what was happening in 1991, I'm not quite sure that they're adequate. I'd like to hold the item. I want to see if maybe perhaps this may be a policy that may have more breadth and more depth, one that would go beyond simply being a pilot for the plan on Central City West, but actually be something that could go citywide. As all of us have talked most recently, the concerns as we try to build housing in the city, we notice obvious patterns where low-income housing is in certain districts and market rate is in others. So, for example, as we said at the last meeting, in Mr. Smith's district, where all of us had made a commitment to 222 units of housing, 0 had been put online. Mr. Blumenfield's only 13 units, and yet in our district, my district, we were 300% above the goal set. And so we want, not only do we want this, but we want this to be equitable and fair throughout the city, and perhaps this may be a policy that would be better or more appropriate in a citywide version versus a simple Central City West. Had this policy gone forward in 1991, probably we would be applauding it. It may have been visionary in 1991, but clearly today in 2019, I don't think that it's adequate for the challenges that either this district or this city are confronting, and so I'd like you to hold the item.
All right, to a date certain, or?
I'm committed to moving this sooner than later. I'm working on another proposal, and I think they may be best joined together, and so I don't know.
All right, we'll note and file item number 4.
Actually, if he's holding it if the councilman is holding it in committee, we'll just hold it in committee and schedule it at a future meeting.
All right. We're making such a motion.
Okay. Thank you, Council.
All right. Thank you so much, staff. That takes us to item number 7.
Item 7, Councilman, this is item that contains 5 appeals for 3 different haul route applications with their own building and safety board files and also their own environmental clearances. The application 1 is to export 1388 cubic yards of earth for the property at 2301 North San Marco Drive in CD4. Application number 2 is to export 6,106 cubic yards of soil for the property at 2305 North San Marco Drive. And application 3 to export 2,582 cubic yards of soil for the property at 2309 North San Marco Drive, also in CD4.
Thank you, Mr. Mejia.
Councilman, Dina Kanawi, Building and Safety. The subject haul routes were approved at the BBSC hearing on February 26, 2019, and the commissioners adopted the staff recommendations as board action, found the projects categorically exempt pursuant to the notice of exemptions prepared by the Department of City Planning. The applicant and council office have agreed upon voluntary conditions, which the representative of CD4 will read into the record. We are in agreement with the proposal with the condition that Council District 4 provide a letter to LADBS Commission Office to verify that the condition has been satisfied. And at that point, staff will provide the haul route clearance on the grading permit. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you so much. All right. We have a representative from Council District 4. Ms. Howard.
Good afternoon, council members. Emma Howard, Senior Planning Deputy for Councilmember Rue. I'm here to speak on the appeals of the haul route approvals for 2301, 2305, and 2309 North San Marco Drive. Our office has been involved in the case going back to the first hearing in August, which the Board of Building and Safety Commissioners continue to ensure the applicant met with the neighbors and the Hollywood United Council. Over the last year, I have presented the council members 3 main concerns at several public hearings and community meetings. First, that such a massive grading projects on a hillside substandard street will impact circulation and safety for residents. Secondly, that as the plan check process for the building permits is now expired, it would be a simpler project if the halls had been denied and the project was restarted wholesale. This would ensure the whole project would be considered under the current applicable baseline hillside and baseline mansionization ordinance, which the council member champions. Lastly, that no matter the project design, discretionary projects require the higher standard of transparency and community conversation, and the council member always supports the right of a community to discuss a discretionary project and see plans in advance of the hearings. In the case of these 3 halls, the applicant has agreed to submit voluntary additional conditions regarding that communication and transparency. Submitted for the record, the condition language is, following approval of these haul routes and prior to approval of any revised building permits related to the haul route, the applicant will be required to present their draft building plans for these projects at least once and no more than twice at meetings of the Planning and Land Use Committee or Board of the Hollywood United Neighborhood Council, if agendized by the Hollywood United Neighborhood Council. Secondly, that the applicant will return once to present any final approved building plans related to the haul route for the 3 lots and provide information about their construction processes to the same body. Clearance of these conditions will be satisfied by submittal of a letter from staff of Council District 4 to the Department of Building and Safety staff stating that the condition has been met. I would also want to note the applicant is not limited in the number of times they may return to the Hollywood United Neighborhood Council if they wish, but for the purposes of our conditions, they are required to attend no more than 3 times or less. I would also note that when the San Marco haul routes came back to the Board of Building and Safety, our office's recommendation was denial of the project, as it would be simpler procedurally not to approve hauls where building permits are in need of revision. The building permits for these 3 projects are now subject to the baseline hillside ordinance and will need to revise their grading plans to match the maximum grading in R1 zones or apply for a zoning advisor determination pursuant to Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 1221C10F4, which will reduce overall grading. As this case makes clear, hillside permitting processes are regularly time-consuming and lacking in clarity for all sides. The applicant, neighborhoods, neighborhood councils, city staff, and council offices deal with prolonged hearings on complex procedural questions far too often in our hillsides, especially in CD4. This is why Councilmember Ryu has called for an Office of Hillside Construction to create certainty when projects have these multiple interconnecting approvals across city departments. However, in this case, we fully acknowledge staff has followed the correct procedures, the board made a clear decision to approve, and the council member cannot recommend a sustain of an appeal on CEQA grounds. He is satisfied with the voluntary conditions and the expectation that the building plans for each house will be revised to match current codes. Thank you so much.
Excellent. So we have a handful of appellants who've each submitted a handful of appeals. I think it's 3 appeals per, I think it's 5 appellants, and they've submitted 3 separate appeals each.
Correct. Adrian Corsani, City Attorney's Office. So 5 sets of appellants, each filed 1 appeal form for all 3 cases. So as they make their arguments, they should be directed to be clear as to which scenario they're addressing.
And is it reasonable that they make the arguments in 6 minutes or less?
It's at the chair's discretion, but considering you have 5 and the applicant gets equal time to respond to the appeal, if you give them 6 minutes, that breaks down to 2 per case. And since they filed 1 appeal form, it appears that the arguments are going to be similar.
Okay. So each appellant will have 6 minutes to speak. You're not required to take all 6 minutes, nor are you required or encouraged to repeat things that have already been said. And so we will call you forward. After that, the applicant will have a total of 30 minutes.
I believe the clerk is going to keep a record of how much time is spent on the appellant's arguments, and then the applicant will receive equal time.
All right. So the applicant will have as much time as all the appellants combined, but no more than that. So we have Stephen De Cordova. It's the first appellant.
How do you do?
Good, sir.
My name is Stephen De Cordova. I reside less than 200 feet from these properties, and I face them. The street that I live on is a dead end that goes right into the haul route. We have no other access to the outside world. Emergency vehicles can't reach us. So the size of the haul, as proposed, is of concern to us. We wish to appeal. I say we. I've been speaking with a bunch of my neighbors. I'll speak for myself. I want to appeal the decision to approve the haul route for 2 main reasons. The first reason is it seems a pretty straightforward one. There are no current permits for these addresses. The permits that did exist expired on or about the 10th of August, 2018. And we have been advised by Councilmember Rue's office that they are against any extension of the plan check deadline, and they've advised us that these plans now need to be revised to conform to the baseline hillside ordinance. So our position is that absent any valid permits, absent any plans that we are aware of that have been filed with the city that are now consistent with the baseline hillside ordinance, that we urge that this haul route be denied for now. You know, when they revise their plans and we know what they're planning to do consistent with current zoning, then we can take a look at it. Now, my second reason for objecting to this is the sheer amount of earth to be excavated and hauled. It's excessive, 10,076 cubic yards for the three houses. That amounts to 800 to 1,000 dump truck loads. They're talking about 221 haul days. At 4 days a week, that's going to extend over 13 months with 4 to 5 dump trucks per day. And that's going on a substandard road. San Marco Drive is a substandard road. It's 1.5 lanes in most places, and it's falling apart in most places. And we're afraid that this amount of hauling is going to render San Marco pretty inaccessible for the people who live on it, for the people like us who have to traverse it to get to the outside world. It's hard to imagine that with all this trucking there aren't going to be incidents. Some of the folks who are going to speak later will show you we have had a history of incidents with trucks falling over. 2305 San Marco alone calls for 6,100 cubic yards of earth to be removed. That's 6 times the allowed amount. 2309, our understanding is the plan includes a house and an above-ground pool. It seems like an excessive thing to do on a hillside where 3 houses are being jammed into a small space and requiring grading that goes well beyond what's permitted. So, in the absence of approved 2 code plans, including reasonable grading plans, we would like to urge that for now, the haul plan, the haul route be denied. We really hope that these folks, these property owners, will redesign their plans to conform to the baseline hillside ordinance, and that when they have plans that are to code, we will be happy to meet with them and support them and get behind them and welcome them into our neighborhood as our neighbors and friends. But in the meantime, what they're planning to do, we feel, is excessive. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have Streeter Graham and Alex Lebosque.
Hello, Graham Streeter here, resident in the Hollywood Hills there where this is all taking place as well. I also want to just echo what Mr. Dakota was saying, that we welcome new development into the Hollywood Hills always. It's an honor to live there, and we're always reminded of its beauty and that it is the hills. And one of the things that we all stand behind as a community is the hillside ordinance that protects, for safety reasons, the excavation, the amount of excavation, and the rules of the hills as we live there. And so I think on my behalf, I just want to a call of action, if I can, for you guys. I want to make sure that this haul route that is happening is being done because of a reason, because of something that has been approved. And my understanding is not approved yet, so it doesn't make sense to me that we're doing a haul route, approving a haul route when we don't have construction that's to code yet or approved. So that is my biggest and most primary concern. The second one is it being a sole entry port for cars to come and go, for fire engines, for ambulances. If you live in the Hollywood Hills, you know the demographics are on the older side sometimes. And even last night, I saw a fire engine try to wrestle through San Marco to get to a resident. And if in the event we're doing construction, we have trucks going and coming. I am on San Marco. I look down on Lorenzo Drive. It is constantly in a mess of cars because it is a single lane subpar road. So we worry about the safety when we're doing a haul route that big. Again, if the haul route doesn't have to be approved right now, it'd be great that we can reassess that route based on plans that are approved for building as well. And third thing, the road itself has a history of being unstable. We've seen dump trucks roll off the hill into other homes. We've seen head-on collisions on hairpin turns. And at the very base of Cahuenga and Cahuenga Terrace, which is where the first port of entry for all this haul to happen, it is constantly wet. The concrete is wet, and it's got potholes all over it because something underneath there is not secure. And over the 19 years of me living in this neighborhood, I've seen a continual systemic decline in the road right there. And I can't imagine what trucks that are running that kind of haul over a year and 13 months will do to that. So my second call to action is that the roads be evaluated for safety before any haul route ever takes place. That we are assured that the neighbors on the low end of these hills that the road is above them, that their homes are safe and protected. So some type of engineering assurance that this route is going to be safe. And the other one is that in the haul route, during the process of that route, that there is an assurance that an ambulance or a fire engine in the summertime, all those kind of safety things are really thought out and brought to their attention, because the last thing we want to do is live in the hills and see a fire and not be able to get to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next appellants are, excuse my pronunciation, Kulap Vilyasak and Scott Ackerman.
Hi, my name is Kulap Vilyasak. I am here representing my husband, Scott Ackerman, as well. I am appealing, as you know, the haul route. I live directly across the hillside at 2314 San Marco. I echo what my neighbors say and add that living below and across the street, I'm very concerned about the amount of excavation, the heavy traffic, and how it may destabilize the hillside that our home is on, affecting the integrity of our foundation and the dry work of the exterior. I've also been tasked with laying out what the neighborhood's desired requirements, and they echo a lot of what the councilman's office stated, but just for the record, we would like the developers to please draft new plans that are fully compliant with current zoning, baseline hillside ordinance, including limitations on grading and hauling, and get these approved by the cities. We request that any swimming pool should be eliminated from the plans. We ask that the property owners must meet with concerned neighbors several times if necessary in advance of submission of their plans to the city, in the hopes that agreements will be reached which will let them move forward and there will be no further opposition from the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. The next appellant is Aaron Burke.
Hello, thank you for hearing my comments. My name is Aaron Burke, and I reside at 6481 San Marcos Circle, directly below the subject sites. I echo all the sentiments that were just presented by my neighbors, and I would like to specifically address safety concerns in regards to the haul routes and the amount of excavation proposed, particularly since this project will involve not one, but 3 parcels and proposed homes. The haul route proposed suggests the trucks will arrive to and exit the site along the same route. The petitioners have mentioned a staging area for trucks. How will a staging area be constructed without substantial earth removal, and what is the proposed haul route during this initial excavation period? If they plan to come into the site along the haul route, are they then planning to turn around or reverse down San Marco Drive? There is absolutely no way this can be done without substantial widening of the roadway. There is a very sharp L-turn that will make backing up impossible. There also has been no mention in regards to the size of the excavating equipment proposed and how and where it will be parked prior to the staging area being created. Since my property sits directly below the subject sites with limited rear yard setback, I have concerns about a truck not having room on the narrow roadway to pass other vehicles and to risk driving off the road and falling into our property as well as our neighboring properties. This will also cause extensive congestion and impasse for vehicles attempting to travel these routes. I did bring some photos of the roadways. I'm not sure if I'm able to share them. But
Can we share those?
thank you very much.
Thank you. Our final appellant, Mr. Matt Sims. Matt Sims. All right, Matt Sims. Not present. All right, so that leaves us with the applicant for what are their names? Well, this is not public comment. These are only people who filled out appeals. I'll get to public comment later. All right? It'll be all good. Now we got to hear from the applicant first.
Thank you, council members, and we appreciate the opportunity to be here in front of you today. And I hope that I can really frame this in a very concise way so that you can really understand why it is that we are here today. So just want to back up and just let you know that this started in March of 2017 when the applicants put together a project and filed it per plan check. It was a by right project, and at this time in March 2017, it complied with all of LAMC code, height, setbacks, FAR, all sorts of LAMC code that was applicable at that time. It went through the standard plan check process in obtaining clearances, sign-offs, whatnot. Very standard process. And it was in August of 2018 that this project was heard at a haul route hearing. Now, this project was once again, a by right project, and it was heard by the commission, and it was held in abeyance. And the primary reason that it was held in abeyance at this haul route hearing was to give the applicants the opportunity to reach out to the community and share with them, really, what it was that the project was and what it did and didn't contain, just so that the neighbors would be aware of what was going on. And rather than appeal that decision, the applicants complied. They said, okay, let's do this. Let's go back to the community. And that was shortly after when we were brought on board to represent and help do the community outreach. So we came on board and helped the applicants reach out to the community. We held several meetings in which the applicant will talk about in further detail and really detail how it is that we went out into the community. And I myself also knocked on doors, handed out cards, and posted signs with our number so that we can be contacted with any additional questions. Then, on February 26th of 2019, not too long ago, this project was once again heard by the LADBS Haul Route Commissioners, which they unanimously approved. They said, this is fine, this is a by right project that was submitted back in 2017, and we're listening to it again, and we approve. So, I think that what really confused this issue from the get-go was the fact that there was a project that was submitted by these applicants over 10 years ago. Now it's like almost 11 years now. And this project asked for several variances and special entitlements. But that project was denied. It was shut down, and so the applicants had to basically start anew. And so that's what they did. And that was what this project that they submitted back in March 2017 was. It was a project that took what the zoning administrator said into consideration, and it came back asking for no variances, no special entitlements, a strictly by right project. So I think that I understand that the appellants are going to, bring all sorts of issues and concerns that they have. But I really want to bring this back to what we're here today to discuss. Because this is really appealed because of a CEQA issue. CEQA was approved by the LADVS Hall Route Commission. There was no violation of CEQA whatsoever, and at every step, this project has complied with all of the applicable policy and codes that LADVS has requested at that time. Now, we ask that you deny this appeal and allow this project to continue to move forward through the plan check process so that we can address all of the concerns through the plan check process, through LADVS and those entities that can in fact opine on what these issues are, whether it be grading, whether it be setbacks, and whether it be road improvements, which the applicants have more than addressed in the application by increasing the road and cutting down the blind turn that currently exists right now. So I just want to make it clear that the applicants have gone above and beyond in reaching out to the community and going out and doing community outreach, and we're here to attest that. And we hope that you can just allow us to continue to move on in the process to address these issues moving forward. So I'm going to try to be very brief and not consume all of my time for time's sake, and introduce the applicant. Thank you very much. And I'll be available to answer any questions, follow-up questions if you may have any. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, council members, commissioners. My name is Brittany Teague, and my husband and I are the owners of 2301 and 2309 San Marco. A bit of background and context to help shed light on some of the contention, and I'll try to keep it brief so to not repeat what some of Marcia has already shared with you. Nearly 10 years ago, my now husband and our neighbor Andrea, who's also here today, and a fellow property owner, separate property owner, they initially envisioned and presented home designs that were a bit more grand in scale and a bit more dramatic in design. As shared, the neighborhood wasn't a fan of them, and they ended up not moving forward after asking for variances and extra requests, and it was set aside. Basically, it was scrapped. The project sat dormant for many years, a lot of exhausted energy, I think, from going through a failure in that first round. And now, about 3 years ago, my husband and I, he was a newly married man, and I with a baby on the way. I'm a third-generation Angelino, and I looked at him and said, let's revisit San Marco. Maybe it's some place where we could build our family home, and maybe it's some place where we could end up living after all. I knew it was a sore spot for him. We didn't want a big battle with the neighbors, so we pulled out our old notes referencing their concerns and started fresh. Smaller houses, each of which is less than 3,000 square feet, so they might be categorizing them as excessive designs. But in my humble opinion, I don't think 2,400 and I believe 2,700 square feet would fall under the maybe more typical presentation of the McMansions in the Hollywood Hills. And we designed them all per building code, no variances. We had hired a project representative to help shepherd it through the multifaceted and often confusing building approval process. We mentioned the sensitivity of the neighborhood, but he advised us that the design didn't require community outreach. In hindsight, a bit misguided, as evidenced by the frustrated neighbors who attended that initial haul route hearing back in August, and they wanted more transparency. They feared this was the revival of an old project. It wasn't, but we understood the confusion. The commissioners had requested that we engage with the community prior to their final vote, and the project was put in abeyance. A community rep, Stephen De Cordova, volunteered to be the point of contact. My first charge was to find a new project representative to help us out going forward, and then to get all of us together with as many community members as might be available. We held a private meeting back in January, to which Mr. De Cordova attended, and I shared all my contact information. We then presented in a public forum at a hunk meeting in February and re-presented our project to the Haul Route Commission at the end of February. I personally attended and presented at all of these meetings. I had given out my contact info as far back as early January, saying that I'd be happy to hear concerns, my goals to be solution-oriented with the neighborhood. No one has called, no one has emailed me. After 2 presentations, the Haul Route Commissioners unanimously voted to approve our haul route. I'm sure the neighbors are going to continue to voice their concerns. The logistics and lifestyle of the Hollywood Hills can be tough. Roads are tight, traffic isn't pleasant. We have dedicated 5 feet to widen the road, in addition to our 5-foot setback in the design. But construction concerns might only be the beginning, and as I've done the last 4 months, I'll continue to be available to engage with the neighbors. I've committed this to the council office. I've committed to at least 2 more hunk meetings with our current plans or any versions of them, and then a 3rd meeting to represent final plans. I also promise I won't change my cell phone or my email. I'll keep it all on. So I ask that you uphold the unanimous decision of the Haul Route Hearing Commission and deny the appeal. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you so much. You have, are you also the applicant?
Can I have 1 minute or 2 minutes?
There's 1 minute and 42 seconds left. You should start by saying your name.
Very good. My name is Andrea Pallauro, and I don't want to repeat what has just been said. I just want to bring my own experience forward. I'm the owner of 2305 San Marco Drive, and I bought this property back in 2007 because I fell in love with it and immediately identified it as the perfect place to build my dream house. And as it has been said, over the years, in this very, very long process, we have gone through a very extensive redesign so that we could have one that didn't require the request for any variances and was in full compliance with the code at the time of our application. While at the same time taking in consideration, the concerns of the community. And just about a month ago, as it has been said, the commissioners unanimously approved this haul route, and I'm here to respectfully request that we are allowed to continue this process, as we have every intention to make this haul route as painless as possible for everybody involved, and to make this process also as easy as possible. Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we have public comment on this matter. Brianna Keene, Andrea Pallaro. See, you weren't supposed to do that. All right. Patrick Berry. Come on. If I called you, come on up. But
I have a document. Sure. You each get one? Okay, great. Okay. My name is Brianna Brown Keene, and my house is directly in front, my driveway is directly in front of where they'll be removing the dirt. My carport, unfortunately, would not be able to be used. It is actually the only area where there could be a turnaround on San Marco Drive, for fear of the foundation will actually fall apart and destroy the home beneath us, as well as our foundation for our home.
Not to mention, I have an infant, and there's no way in and out of my house if that area is blocked. Our driveway will be blocked. Christine's house, one of our neighbors, fell out of escrow because of the proposed hauling route. She was supposed to move to Australia. She's actually undergone financial hardship because of this. There's documents about that. Within the past 2 weeks, we have gathered 65 signatures. Most of those neighbors would be here, but this date has changed twice in the past 2 weeks. So just know that, and we've only gathered that within the past week and a half, those 65 signatures. So we represent the 65 signatures who've signed. There's a lot of building going on in the Dell. And
Thank you.
that's it.
Patrick Berry. Patrick will conclude our public comment on this matter.
Thank you. Hi, Patrick Berry. I am a 21-year resident, 2250 San Marco Drive, so I'm about 62 steps away from this property or this proposed haul route. I don't want to repeat, so I'll just offer two visual images for the record. One, the black and white one, is a large-sized truck that was just taken 2 weeks ago. This is very common in the closest turnaround. And then the colored one is the aforementioned truck, also a large-sized truck, spilling over and almost killing the driver. This happened 2 years ago, and it's about 62 steps the other way from this proposed properties. The other thing that I'll finalize with is that I've been here for 21 years in my residence, 2250, and I have never gotten any outreach from anybody other than my neighbors about this. So I'm not saying that it wasn't attempted, but I've never met any of the individuals here today on the other side of this, the consultants or otherwise. So the outreach that they're attesting to, I'm not aware of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Any questions or comments on this matter, members? I don't see any at this moment. Mr. Steele? No?
It just seems that there's been a thorough vetting and that others who were commissioned to do this have already vetted this and they've already approved this. So absent some point that's beyond that, it seems that we're pretty much limited to deny the appeal. The other point is that there's a whole range of, I live across the street from one development and a block from another that are being developed. And there's a whole range of things, but there's fundamentally, hauling is challenging.
Yeah.
There's just no getting away from it, whether you start at 9 or you start at 7, whether you're Monday through Thursday or you're Monday through Saturday. It is a challenge for all neighbors. It's one that I'm living through, but it's the only way that we are able to build housing. It seems that these, not developers, but these home builders have gone to great lengths to change a plan that was overly ambitious to one that seems reasoned for the environment. So.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Ms. Price, anything on this? Nothing, Mr. Price. All right. So there's been a motion to deny. I want to hear amendments per Council District 4.
Council members, on the advice of the city attorney, I'm going to add an additional point of clarification for our voluntary conditions. This is the text. Following each offer to be present at a neighborhood council, if the neighborhood council cannot or will not meet with quorum to discuss this project within 2 months, that meeting condition will be considered satisfied. And if the neighborhood council meets in quorum to discuss and the applicant does not appear, the condition will not be considered satisfied. Just points of clarification intended to ensure that neither side can delay the other. Thank you.
All right.
Corsani City Attorney's Office. I think there was one more that we had discussed just to make sure that the condition is clear and enforceable, and that is in the first paragraph to amend the last sentence to read no more than twice at meetings of the committee or board upon request of the applicant to be agendized by the neighborhood council.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So we'll accept those amendments from Council District 4 and move the item as amended to council.
And to be clear that we're denying those 5 appeals.
Yes.
Yes. And approving the 3 applications.
Yes.
With
Absolutely.
the conditions of CD4. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Mr. Mejia. Mr. Mejia, can you confirm that this concludes our business for today's meetings?
Yes, Council.
Excellent. Confirmed, and we are adjourned. Thank you so much.